This is the story of one of the worst received Broadway musicals in history. Showing for only 10 performances over 3 days, it was described as, quote, for connoisseurs of the truly bad. And its story is intertwined with those of Andy Warhol, Neil Armstrong, Elvis, and even George Lucas. So fasten your seatbelts because you're in for a bumpy ride. This is the story of Man on the Moon. John Edmund Andrew Phillips was born the son of a military man in Parris Island, South Carolina, in 1935. He was raised in Alexandria, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., and from a young age he took an interest in the arts. Like many musicians of the day, Phillips gravitated toward the folk genre, and throughout high school and college he would found many bands. None of these bands ever made it big, but undiscouraged, Phillips decided to move to New York in hopes that he would strike it big in the music industry. After a few moderately successful attempts with bands like The Journeymen and The New Journeymen, Phillips finally struck it big with rock and roll folk group The Mamas and the Papas in 1965. Together with his second wife Michelle Gilliam and friends Denny Doherty and Cass Elliot, the group released chart-topping songs like California Dreamin' and Monday Monday. As quick as they rose, they fell, and the band broke up after only 3 years amidst a litany of personal clashes and love triangle shenanigans. When the dust settled, John was left alone. Uncertain of what to do next, Phillips moved to LA and began working on his first solo album, John, the Wolf King of LA. And it was during this time that Phillips' inspiration for a space-themed opera would lift off. On July 20th, 1969, the Apollo 11 lunar lander module made history when it touched down on the moon's surface, and the entire globe was tuned in to witness it. Watching from his room in LA was John Phillips. Astounded by the footage of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin bouncing around on the lunar surface, Phillips was inspired to start writing a space opera. He struggled to decide which medium should be used to broadcast his grand design, but he eventually landed on a Broadway musical. With a full score in hand, he convinced the hippie millionaire himself, Michael Butler, to produce the musical. Butler, best known for his production of the hit Broadway musical Hair in 1968, brought with him the industry connections and expertise to make Phillips' dream a reality. Unfortunately, it wasn't smooth sailing, and soon after work began, Butler and his crew were driven away by Phillips' reliance on illicit substances, causing him to be incredibly hard to work and reason with. It was during these years that John met his third wife, actress Genevieve Waite, who convinced him to look toward the film industry for project funding. With the help of his daughter, Phillips reached out to Lucasfilm with a script and music samples. He never received anything back from the company, and the film prospects for space died right there. He did, however, maintain for the remainder of his life that George Lucas stole the idea for Star Wars, a space opera, from his script. Stonewalled yet again, the couple was unsure of where to turn. That is, until Genevieve mentioned her struggles to her friend Andy Warhol, because everyone has one of the world's leading artists and innovators on speed dial. Warhol agreed to back the musical, and so, with a new producer and a new name, Man on the Moon was off. Now that the musical had proper backing, it was time to find a star-studded cast to fill out the main roles of the play. Oh yeah, what are those anyway? What even is the plot of Phillips' magnum opus? Oh, what's this? Oh my. Dr. Baum, an evil Earth scientist originally cast as Denny Doherty from The Mamas and the Papas, and later replaced with Harlan S. Foss, constructs a world-ending bomb that he intends to use to blow up the moon. Now the bomb is a half-human machine named Leroy, played by Mark Lawhead, In an effort to thwart his dastardly plan, an astronaut, Ernie Hardy, played by Eric Lang, must travel to a distant world, Canis Minor, to assemble a team of dignitaries to either defuse the bomb or just talk to him and tell him it's not nice to blow things up. I'm really not clear. The astronaut was actually the role Phillips envisioned for Elvis Presley, but he ultimately rejected it. On Canis Minor lives a civilization of beings led by their president/king Can. It's really unclear whether it's a king or a president. The script uses both. Can was originally played by Phillips himself before he either stepped down or was removed and replaced with Denny Doherty. Angel is Can's daughter and is played by Genevieve Waite, Phillips' wife, who he had to specifically craft the songs for to fit her unique voice. Finally, there was Venus, who I believe was King's wife, but may have also been Dr. Bomb's sister-in-law. Boy, this story needs some work. And Venus was played by Warhol's longtime associate, Monique Van Voren. The musical was split into 4 main scenes. Scene 1 was on Earth, Scene 2 was on Canis Minor, Scene 3 was the Moon, and Scene 4 was back on Earth. Each scene was accompanied by unique musical pieces, all written by Phillips, and the majority of them took place in Scene 2 on Canis Minor. It's really hard to find any other synopses of the actual plot of the play, but it seems like astronaut Ernie Hardy goes to Canis Minor, wins the affection of King Can, his daughter, and his wife, and they all travel to the moon to convince the bomb not to blow up the moon. From the start, the road was rocky and the budget was tight. The talent pool was shallow and experience was lacking in all regards, but the director pushed on. That is until he was fired 2 weeks before curtains, and another was brought in, who completely changed the show, cutting musical numbers, changing and/or eliminating cast, and rewriting portions of the show. Despite all of that, the show was never delayed, and on January 29, 1975, Man on the Moon premiered at the Little Theater in New York. Among the crowd members were Yoko Ono, wife of the late John Lennon, and writer Kurt Vonnegut. To say the show was a total disaster is an understatement. The lack of experience and turmoil behind the scenes was evident, and critics left scathing reviews of the show, stating, quote, "What they've come up with isn't a show. It's a conspiracy against the audience." And Warhol seems to regard the stage as a kind of oversized Campbell's soup can designed to bore the viewer interminably. Needless to say, this experiment in stage performance would be Warhol's one and only, and Phillips' post-Man on the Moon career didn't fare much better. The show would close its curtains for the final time just 3 days later, on February 1st. There are many points of failure within this project that can be pointed to as the straw that broke the camel's back, but ultimately it comes down to the lack of cohesive vision and story. In my video about what themed entertainment is all about, I talk about how in order to succeed in the industry, no matter what the medium, you need a well thought out and enticing story for the audience. This is a problem we face far too often in themed entertainment when organizations fail to craft a story-driven attraction. Many times it's due to management opting for a quick dollar today instead of investing in a lasting product that will produce on the long term. With the constant change in director, cast, music, and plot, Man on the Moon was doomed to fail from the start. I'm sure given the chance and more time on Earth, Phillips would have loved to revisit one of his greatest professional failures and correct his mistakes. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. I'm also on social media. I'm at VTE Archives on Twitter and Themed Entertainment Archives on Instagram. I try to post informative content on there about the history and news of the themed entertainment space on a somewhat daily basis, so check those out if you want. Anyway, thanks again for watching, stay creative, and I'll see you in the next one.